something I've got up here, pop up. So anyway, the first question I got is, for me, why would anybody spend a year on and off researching a pile of rocks out of the park? Well, it's because I have a real passion for local history, and Seppman Mill seemed like a good starting point. So getting back to the Friends of Minneopa State Park, some of the things we do as a group is we put out a quarterly newsletter with some photos to tell what's going on at Minneopa. We run a Minneopa State Park photo contest, and of which the top 20 photos are on display at the public library for the entire month of December. And then we have several events out at the park. Just list one of them in January. It was a candlelight ski, snowshoe, and hike, and we had like 500 people. And so we have bonfires and hot chocolate and the luminaries lit all the way down to the river. It's absolutely gorgeous.
And really, really good cookies.
That's right. So I did not realize this was the 150th anniversary of Seppman Mill until I visited Scott last summer. I was out at the park bugging him about something, and he said, what should we, as the Friends of Minneopa, do to celebrate that? And so I jumped on doing this as one of the things, and then our board decided that another thing was, because we had got a few $100s from some of the Seppman family and their friends to do a memorial, and what we came up with is that we hired a local Mankato artist to paint that scene of Seppman Mill, and we've also, so we have prints of that made, and one of the prints is framed out in the hallway, and we're selling that here at the Historical Society for $50, and starting next week, Tom, it'll be
next week.
ready. And just to help offset the cost of the printing and the outrageous price that this friend of mine, Ellen, charged for doing that painting. So, you want to go to the next slide, or maybe just hit the light so we can see this a little better? Some of the sources of information that over the last year that I went to, starting here at Blue Earth County Historical Society, they have an amazing file folder that has every newspaper article ever printed on Seppman Mill. It's a great starting point. Second, up at the Minnesota State University, they have a room called the Minnesota Room, which is exclusively history of Minnesota, and in addition, up there they have a room called the Archives, and it was fun to go into the archives because you could see the original notes and handwriting of Thomas Hughes, who was the historian of Blue Earth County in the 1800s until the 1930s. The Minnesota State Historical Society Library is up in the History Center, which is near the state capitol, and it proved to be good because it had a lot of the German immigration documents, and I got probably another 6 or 7 photos that I copied off, which you can do as long as you're not in a money-making enterprise, otherwise you'd have to pay for it. If you ever go there, take the free 1-hour tour of the library. The next is the State Historic Preservation Office. In 1971, Seppman Mill was put on the National Register of Historic Places. And the State Historic Preservation Office, also known as SHPO, is in charge of that, and they have a file folder on every building that is on the National Register. And so you can go up there, call ahead, because it's kind of like going into the CIA. You have to get a pass to go down this elevator. Anyway. Next is the History of Minneopa State Park. It's a little pamphlet that's actually for sale out at Minneopa Park, again by historian Thomas Hughes in 1932, extensive history of how the mill was built. Scott was nice enough to round up as many of the Minneopa State Park annual reports as he could. Probably 8 of them listed what was done that year to the mill. And then The next is the family of Lyle and Ginger Seppman, and their son Lynn is right here in front. And so my in-laws were at Laurel's Edge living, and I went in there one day and there was the name Seppman up on the board. So I went and introduced myself to Ginger. She's, I believe, 92 now. And it was through Ginger and Lynn and her daughter Janine that they got some incredible photos, which you'll see. Unbelievable. And some handwritten notes from their ancestors that related to facts that had never come out before. Ken Sander material. Ken Sander is the one that built the model of the mill. He was involved with Seppman Mill from the late 60s to the mid 70s. He was involved with trying to recreate the mill. And then there was a change in the DNR leadership, local. And the Seppman Mill kind of went down the totem pole in terms of priority. And Ken Sander got mad, took his mill, and left. And we'll get into that later. But he also, his son, copied off all of Ken's notes, which were priceless. And so that helped add to the story. And then a book called The Heritage of Blue Earth County, edited by Julie Schrader, has 6 incredibly great stories. That book's 25 years old, and so the sources back then, you're a little closer to people that were ground level with the Seppman. So, okay, yeah.